What's good, YouTube? It's your boy, Blue Blood Sports TV, back at y'all with another one. So, we have some unfortunate news as undefeated welterweight superstar, title contender, Geron Boots Ennis, who is 30 wins, no losses, no draw, 27 big wins by way of knockout, 25 years of age, 5'10" with a 74-inch arm reach. He's coming off of a 12-round shutout victory over Karin Chuakadazine. That was this past Saturday, January 7th, Washington, D.C., as the co-main event to Gervonta Tank Davis's showdown with Hector Garcia at the at the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. With that said, Geron Boots Ennis is the International Boxing Federation's, better known as the IBF, mandatory challenger for undefeated unified three-belt WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight world champion superstar boxer, who is widely considered by many to be top two, if not the number one, definitely top five pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, in Errol the True Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. holds a record of 28 wins, no loss, no draw, 22 big wins by way of knockout, 32 years of age, 5'9" with a 72-inch arm reach. With that said, Geron Boots Ennis has been notified, according to his father, trainer, and manager, Bozy Ennis, by President Mr. Peoples of the IBF, that they are indeed planning on giving Errol the True Spence Jr. a 120-day notification where he's going to have to let them know, okay, what he's going to do and if he's going to fight Geron Boots Ennis or he's going to be stripped of his title. And most recently, we got the news that Errol Spence Jr. is going to possibly be moving up to 154-pound junior middleweight division, okay, and face off against former unified welterweight world champion superstar boxer Keith one-time Thurman. Keith Thurman is 30 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 22 wins by way of knockout. He's 34 years of age, 5'7", 5'8", with a 69-inch arm reach. With that said, it looks like Errol Spence is going to face off against Keith Thurman, who is his WBC, World Boxing Council, mandatory challenger, ordered by President Mauricio Suleiman and board of 32 members after Keith Thurman had his February 5th return against Mario Barrios. They made it a title eliminator. Then eventually they made him the mandatory, and they ordered the fight. Okay, and so with that said, he's now going to fight Keith Thurman at 154 with no belts on the line. And Geron Boots Ennis was asked about this, and his statement was, it's unfortunate because he's tired of chasing these dudes around to get a big fight with either Errol Spence or undefeated 3-division world champion, former junior welterweight undisputed world champion, currently the reigning WBO welterweight world champion, was widely considered by many to be the number one best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in Terence Bud Crawford. Terence Crawford has a resume of 39 wins, no loss, no draw, 30 wins by way of knockout. He is 35 years of age, 5'8", with a 74-inch arm reach. With that said, Geron Boots Ennis is saying that he wants to fight either Terence Crawford or Errol Spence. But Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, they make up for the biggest fight in the sport of boxing. Everybody wanted to see Terence Crawford and Errol Spence face off against one another, particularly at welterweight for undisputed, with all the marbles on the line. There's never been a 4 major sanction belt undisputed welterweight world champion in the history of the sport of boxing. So history would be made, and on top of it, it would be the biggest fight in boxing. And so it didn't come to fruition in 2022. Look like it's going to come to fruition in 2023 when Errol Spence, he stated that he was going to spin the block, come back and visit a fight with Terence Bud Crawford. So with that said, it didn't happen. And now Errol Spence is looking like he's going to fight Keith Thurman, which is saying, the reports are saying that they're going to fight in April, which is hard to believe because there's another major fight happening in April, and that's Gervonta Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia, April 15th. So I can't see 2 major pay-per-views happening in April, right? So with that said, it's very strange that Errol Spence would go up to 154 and challenge Keith Thurman at 154 instead of defending his titles at 147. and then fighting Terence Crawford when Errol Spence has made it abundantly clear that he's been at this weight for 10 years and it's not easy for him to make the weight. Now, he's never missed weight, but it's just not easy for him to make the weight. And so for him to go to 154, I'm hard pressed to see Errol Spence come back down to 47. And so is Geron Boots Ennis. And Geron Boots Ennis, he stated that if Errol Spence goes to 154, he's not going to fight. He's not coming back down to fight himself or Terence Crawford. Okay. And it don't make sense for him to fight Terence Crawford at 54 when everybody wants to see Terence Crawford and Errol Spence fight at 47 for undisputed. So, in a way, Geron Boots Ennis is 25. It strips him of a big fight at welterweight, at least with Errol Spence, but it would give him the opportunity to fight for the vacant IBF titles. If Errol Spence does go up, now the WBA, World Boxing Association President Gilberto Mendoza, they stated that they're going to give Errol Spence 60 days after his next fight to make a decision. And if he fights Terence Crawford, they'll allow him, to have a pass. But if he don't fight Terence Crawford, he's going to have to fight the winner of undefeated welterweight superstar Mexican title contender in Virgil Ortiz Jr., who is 19 wins, no loss, no draw, 19 wins by way of knockout. He is 24 years of age, 5'10" with a 70-inch arm reach. He's taking on Amanda Stanionis. Okay, Amanda Stanionis is the undefeated WBA welterweight regular champion out of Lithuania. He holds a record of 14 wins, 9 wins by way of knockout, no losses, no draws. Amanda Stanionis is 26 years of age, I believe. He's at 5'8" with a 68-inch arm reach. Okay, 68, 69-inch arm reach. Amanda Stanionis is. He is the mandatory. Initially, he was the mandatory to fight against Yordenis Ugas, welterweight Cuban star boxer who was the world champion. And Yordenis Ugas was lobbying and petitioning to have a fight, a unification with Errol Spence, but Stanionis was the mandatory, and the WBA didn't want to allow it. They didn't want to grant it. And eventually they granted it, and Yordenis Ugas, he fought Errol Spence April 16th, Arlington, Texas, AT&T Dallas Cowboys Stadium, once he got a 10th round stoppage victory. That's how he picked up the WBA strap. So they gave Errol Spence a pass and allowed him to fight Yordenis Ugas, or dare I say they gave Ugas the pass and let him fight Errol Spence in unification, and Errol Spence was supposed to give Stanionis, who was on the undercard and fought Butev, the opportunity. But the WBC stepped in and they leapfrogged everybody and put Keith Thurman in that position. And now he's fighting Keith Thurman for a non-title junior middleweight showdown. So that leads Geron Boots Ennis to believe there's no way Errol Spence is coming back down to 47. He said he's getting older. His body is changing and maturing even more. I'm hard-pressed to see him come back down. And that's what I stated, right? It just doesn't make sense. If you're not going to defend the titles against Keith Thurman, who's the mandatory, then you may as well just go ahead and fight and negotiate with Terence Crawford to face off against Terence Crawford before the year is up, okay? Terence Crawford stated he wants to make his ring return April and May. Errol Spence is reported to come back around the same time. It makes more sense to fight Terence Crawford now. You get the opportunity to become undisputed. Should you win, you move up and you vacate the belts, okay? But with that said, Geron Ennis, he has time, right? He can still, now he would have to pick up the pieces more so than fighting Errol Spence and picking up 3 belts in one shot if he would beat Errol Spence and then fighting Terence Crawford and replacing Errol Spence with Terence Crawford is the biggest fight in boxing. But now he's 25, so he'll eventually move up and get Errol Spence, I believe, at 154. But he'll fight for the vacant IBF title, at 147. Or the route that I would go if I'm Geron Boots Ennis and Bozy Ennis was to petition the WBO, World Boxing Organization, and make himself the mandatory challenger, because essentially he is the #1 challenger for the WBO, because Virgil Ortiz is the #1 challenger, but he's been ordered to face off against Stanionis. They was going to fight March 18th, but Stanionis suffered an injury, right? So Virgil Ortiz, he's gonna, if he beats Stanionis, then he loses his position. Geron Boots Ennis is at #2, so he's essentially he's the #1 WBO challenger right now as it stands, because he's #2 and Keith Thurman is #3. Keith Thurman is going to fight Errol Spence, and Virgil Ortiz is going to fight Stanionis. So he should petition the WBO, become Terence Crawford mandatory. Now you get the opportunity to fight Terence Crawford. You may not get Errol Spence, but you could get Terence Crawford. Either which way, you getting a major fight. So, like I said, I don't think many people believe that Errol Spence is going to come back down to 147 after this fight with Keith Thurman. I'm hard pressed to see that happening. So, Geron Ennis, he believes that Errol Spence is going to vacate the belts and never fight himself or Terence Crawford at 147. Those fights do happen. It's going to be at 54, which doesn't make the most sense when it comes to Terence Crawford. But for Boots Ennis, it definitely makes sense for Errol Spence to fight him at 54. So let's see how this all unfolds and plays out. But that's all I got for y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. Drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know what y'all think. Y'all already know what it is. It's your boy Blue Blood Sports TV. Hate, like, comment, and subscribe. You haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the bell icon to get all the new notifications. Follow me on Instagram at Blue Blood Sports TV, all one word. Y'all already know what it is. Shout out to the entire LDBC. Shout out to Black Media Row. Make sure you like and share these videos. That's all I got for y'all. Peace.